Hey guys, welcome to the next episode of this 1976 Triumph TR6 that we are working on. And we have to do many projects on it, but the most important one is rebuilding the engine. So in the previous episode, when the car came, we took it for a test drive to see how it feels, and it didn't feel bad, to be honest, but the car was burning oil and was losing coolant somewhere without obvious leaks anywhere. We think that it was burning it. So anyway, we took the engine out and the transmission and everything, and we started stripping the engine, looking for the problem to find out where our coolant was disappearing. And the first area to inspect was the head, of course. That's the usual suspect for head gasket issues or crack issues, and we didn't find any of that. So we decided that we're gonna send the head to the machine shop. They're gonna magneflux it and see if we have any cracks. If not, they're gonna continue with it and they're gonna install hardened seats for the exhaust valves, and we're gonna skim it for flatness and stuff like that. So with the head out of the way, today we're gonna focus on the rest of the engine, which is the bottom end. We wanna take everything apart and inspect it and measure and assess the whole situation here and decide what we wanna do, whether we're gonna machine cylinders, whether we're gonna machine cranks, or we're just gonna change bearings and rings and seals and gaskets and stuff like that. It's always the hope, always this is the hope that we don't need to machine it, because this means new pistons as well, etc. But usually we end up doing all that. Anyways, let me set up here and we're gonna get crack locking. Okay, so I removed the studs from here, and now the last thing on this side is the toppets. We want to remove the toppets before we flip the engine upside down, because they're gonna fall out. If you remember, in the last episode we measured the lift of the camshaft. I usually do that before I strip the engine completely, because it's easier to put a dial gauge on top of the push rod and turn the camshaft. And we discovered that few of the cams are really worn. For example, number 1 is 240 thou lift, which is the normal for this crankshaft. I believe number 3 was only 230 thou lift, and then number 5, number 8 and number 9 were only 200 thou, so 40 thou wear on these cams. So now we're gonna pull out the toppets as well, and we will see if they are damaged. We know that we need a new camshaft, unfortunately, but I'm assuming that also the toppets are damaged. I can't even take this one out. Come on. Okay. Oh, this one doesn't look bad. Yeah, not bad actually. I'm curious to see what number 3, number 5, number 8 and number 9 look like. So this one is good as well. Has a little dot in the middle. They all have a ridge on top and don't want to come out, so they weren't even going to come out if we flipped the head upside down. I don't want to grab you with pliers, but if you're stubborn, I will do that, believe me. Okay. Uh-oh, did you see that? Wow. This one is bad. That's number 3. Let's see number 4. As far as I remember, number 4 was not a bad number. Well, it looks like they're not in a great shape anyways. Looks like we're gonna have to buy new ones, so I'm just gonna grab them with pliers. Okay. Number 4 is not bad. Number 5 was worn big time. The cam, I mean, and the toppet as well. Wow. I don't think I've seen toppets that are in such a bad shape. Number 6 is okay. 7 is kind of okay. Now let's look at 8 and 9. Same thing, see? Bad. And 9. These are the two cams that were only 200 thou. 10 is good. 11 is bad. I don't remember what the number was for the cam on 11, probably low as well. And 12 is good. Anyway, I'm not gonna keep them in order because we're gonna replace them all. Okay, so the engine is upside down, and before we do anything else, I think we should measure the end play of the crankshaft so we know where we stand and whether we're gonna have to buy oversized thrust washers or we should go with the standard. Like, we need to know what it is right now. If you remember, before I put the engine on the stand, I removed these 7 bolts from here, from the rear seal housing. Otherwise it was going to be really awkward here to reach with wrenches and stuff. So that is out, and let's measure the end plate. Okay, so that's one end. Okay, so that's normal. It's 0 to 7. I believe it is 6 to 8, the tolerance, or something like that. But yeah, we don't have excessive end play, so we're just gonna go with the standard washers. So I'm gonna remove the oil pump, this front sealing block, and then we're gonna start removing the connecting rods with the piston. Okay, I'm interrupting the time lapse because I'm loosening now the connecting rod caps, and I loosened first 6th, 2nd, and now I'm loosening 5th, and all of them, all the bolts so far are super tight. Like, I don't know why, but somebody over torqued them big time. Now, I forgot to mention that when I took the cover off, all the bolts had washers on them. Originally, we don't have washers. So somebody's been here already. This gasket is also aftermarket gasket. So it looks like we start finding now more and more evidence that this engine has been rebuilt at some point. But look at that. I think we're gonna have to replace these bolts because I think they're over torqued. Like, I've never seen bolts that are so tight. Like, really? Like, I'm bending the ratchet. This is crazy. The torque here is about 50, but this is like crazy. Holy moly. Now I can use the gun for the rest. Yeah, if these have been over torqued, it means they're stretched way too much, so I think we should replace them. But these are the original bearings. See, they don't say a size, and they have the logo. I keep forgetting what the brand name is, but it is a triangular thing. It's like a V. We'll find another one. The rings are not seized, which we wouldn't expect from a car that has been on the road all the time, but I don't know. So I can't wait. So I'm gonna go and clean the top of this piston on the wire wheel so we can see if it has any marks on it. Still the original pistons of the car. They still have the letters B. They have A, B. This is the grade of the piston. So original 50 years old piston. And same here, this logo that I don't know who it belongs to. Okay, so original pistons, original connecting rod bearings. So let me take out the other 5 and then we're gonna see the main bearings. So the connecting rods are out together with the pistons. I'm surprised of the shape of this crankshaft. I mean, I can definitely see lines. It's not like perfectly smooth, but there are no grooves. There's nothing. The bearings look pretty good. Original bearings, like seriously, it looks pretty good. Anyway, so as I was taking them out, something I didn't mention in advance, but I'm gonna tell it now. As I'm taking out the connecting rods, I'm making sure that every connecting rod and cap have a matching number marked on them, and that number, of course, matches the position 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and they did. Now the main shaft caps, I just removed the bolts, but before I take the caps out, I want to show you this. So every cap is marked 1, 2, 3, and 4, but not only we have to follow the position, we also have to be careful about the orientation, whether it's installed this way or this way. And how we know that is the number that is here matches the orientation of a number that is stamped here on the block. So 1, 2, where is 3? 3 and 4 is right here. So this number has to be in the same direction as this number. So this matches, everything is good. We measured the end plate, so now we can take out the cups and the crankshaft. We're gonna put it on the bench to measure it, and we're gonna come back here and we're gonna start measuring the cylinders. We still have to take the camshaft out inside, but I want to take out the crank first so I can reach underneath and support the rear end with one hand. So that's why we're leaving it last. And when we start assembling soon, hopefully, that's the first thing to go in, the camshaft. And let's see these bearings, and they don't look horrible, and I'm pretty sure they are the original ones as well. Let's take them out and see. Yep, the same logo. I think VP or something like that. Chef Tash knows what brand that is. So, barely worn, I'm telling you. This engine is a very, very low mileage. I'm surprised. And these shells don't look bad at all. You know, normally I keep them with crankshaft so I can see this bearing is worn and it matches this worn whatever, so we can analyze, but these look so good that there's nothing to analyze. Okay, so these say standard, which means that they have been replaced, because the original ones out of the factory, they were standard size, but they weren't stamped standard. These ones say STD, sexual transmitted diseases, right? This was the reason why the oil pan came down, just to replace the thrust washers. Okay, so here we can only pull out the camshaft, and that's everything. Okay, look at that. Where is 5? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Look at this. It's so bad. Let's go on the bench and take a better look at this and the crankshaft. Okay, so here's the camshaft. Here's a closer look. So number 3 was the first one that was a little bit worn, but number 5, which is this one, was the first one that was actually a lot a bit worn, and you can see how bad it is. It's crazy. And you know, the toppet also on this one was bad. And then we have 9 and 10, no, 8 and 9, so 9 and 8, so these two. Well, this doesn't look bad, but it's very low, I know for a fact. And this one too. You see, it can almost trick you, but it is 40 thousandths lower than this one. You can tell the shape also, it is pretty wide radius, where this has much smaller radius in the top. So it's a boat anchor. The crankshaft, like I said, it doesn't look bad at all. Like, there's no nail catchers or anything. It's not worn. Like, I'm not gonna be surprised if this one checks out for original bearings, for standard bearings. Then we can just polish it with a shoelace here and install new bearings, and that's all. But let me not jump ahead of myself. Let's measure it. The block actually doesn't have a ridge here. I thought that there was a ridge, but it's not a ridge. So is it possible that we can reuse the same pistons? I don't know. Let's hope for that. Let's measure it as well. Hopefully, if it doesn't need machining, then we can just send it to the machine shop only for magnafluxing. That bothers me a lot. We haven't found the issue yet. Where did our coolant go? Is it possible that it leaked from here into the oil? No, because the oil didn't look so bad. There was a little bit of a white thing in the oil, but if 3 liters of coolant go into the oil, then you know what's gonna happen, right? So no, plus the exhaust valve on the first cylinder was pretty white, so it wasn't way too bad, but it was white. So I don't know. Even if we don't need to machine the block, we're gonna send it to the machine shop for magnafluxing. So let's measure. Okay, so the crankshaft is measured, and these are the numbers. I don't know what the spec is, and I don't want to know yet. I want to measure the cylinders as well. But what I can see is that they're very, very consistent. The journals, these are the mains, 2.311 everywhere. So there's 4 10,000ths or 4 tenths difference between the smallest and the biggest one, which is great. The pins as well, these are the connecting rod journals, they call them pins. So here 1.875, if I remember well, this is the spec. I'm not really sure, but this number sounds very familiar to me. I think 1.875 is the spec for a new crankshaft, so that's crazy. Anyway, again, there's from 1.8751 to 1.8756, so 5 10,000ths of a difference between the smallest one and the biggest one. So I think that's pretty good, very, very consistent. So now I'm ready to start measuring the cylinders, and for that I remember this number from the spec, it's 2.9400. So I already set up my gauge with the micrometer here. Let me show you. Well, once again I lost one part of my video somehow. I didn't press the recording button or whatever. But what I wanted to show you here was that my gauge, when I set it up to 2.9400 and I go to measure the cylinders, I measure the diameter or the bore in 3 different positions, 120 degrees from each other. And I compare these 3 measurements, and the difference from the smallest to the biggest one is my out of round, right? That tells me how much my diameter varies. And then what I do is I do the same thing at the top, the center, and the bottom of the cylinder. So in 3 different heights. And then I compare the first position from the top to the first position from the center to the first position of the bottom, and all these 3 measurements in the same position in 3 different heights tell me if I have a taper on the cylinder, right? So these are the 9 measurements that I usually take from each cylinder, and since my gauge is set to 2.9400, it's gonna show 0 when it is at this dimension. So any difference between 0 and the actual measurement of the cylinder is gonna be a measurement that I have to add to 2.9400. So if my gauge shows 0.0015, let's say, this means that my measurement is 2.9415. So let's go back to measuring. Okay, so cylinder 1. So it's important to remember my first, second, and third positions. I don't want to measure this position of the top with this position of the bottom to see if I have taper. I want to measure this position in all 3 depths. So my first position is always like that, my second position is always like that, and my third position is always like that. Okay, so 1, 2, 3. So let's measure number 1. And 22 tenths, so 2 thou. What I'm gonna write here, that's my top first position, 0.0022. That's 2.2 thousandths or 22 ten thousandths. Okay. Okay, 24. So that's my third position now. What do you see from there? 20. So let's go center somewhere. 17, 15, and 17 tenths. And at the bottom, 17, 17, and 17. Wow, so consistent. All right, so I didn't write the 0.00. This is 0.0020 and 0.0017, 0.0015, etc. I know that these are by tenths. So at the top, let's find out of round. So in this column here, we're gonna find the out of round. The difference between the smallest and the biggest one here is 4 ten-thousandths of an inch. So my out of round here is 0.0004. Here it is only 2, 17, 15, and 17, so 0.0002. And here it is 0. Now the taper, we take all the 3 first positions in the 3 different depths and we compare them, so 17, 17, and 22. So we have 0.0005 ten-thousandths of an inch taper at that direction. Here we have a little bit more, so it's from 15 to 24, so we have 9 ten-thousandths. Here we have 3. And my biggest measurement here is 24. So my biggest measurement found anywhere in this cylinder is 2.9424, because my gauge is set to 2.9400 and here we are 24 ten-thousandths bigger than that. So my measurement of this cylinder is 2.9424. So cylinder 1 has out of round, the biggest out of round is 4. So 0.0004 The biggest taper is 9, 0.0009, and my max measurement is 2.9424. 2.9424. So I'm gonna go measure the other 5 cylinders in that chart. I'm gonna do the calculations, and we're gonna transfer the final results here. Okay, it's all measured, and these are our results. Everything looks fantastic actually. It's unbelievable that this engine is actually, it has the stock spec. I transferred all the information here, so out of round they are all maximum 5/10 out of round, maximum 9/10 of taper, and these are all the measurements of the cylinders. They are quite consistent. The spec for the cylinders though, I thought it was 2.9400, but I forget that this is actually, in general they call it 2.9400, but it actually, the grades, grade A and grade B, are 9405 to 9410 and 9411 to 9416. And if you remember that piston, we have a grade B piston, and I went and I checked the other ones and they're all grade B. So our spec is 2.9411 to 2.9416. So our maximum is 25. So we are 9/10 thousandths bigger in our biggest bore. Everything else, like this, is 5/10 bigger, 6/10 bigger. So I would leave it like that. I wouldn't touch it. And these are just where we have this 25, which is the biggest cylinder. It's only at the top in one location it is that much. Everywhere else is 20, 21, 20, which is 4/10 bigger than the spec. And I went and I found the specs for the journals. So the journal is from 2.3110 to 2.3115. Well, guess what? Everywhere here we are within spec, except 1 and 3/10 thousandths over the spec. It's like crazy. For the pins, I told you I recognize this number, 18750 to 18755, and we are actually within 1/10 out of spec. So I'm happy to report that this block doesn't need machining. We're just gonna take it to the machine shop for magnaflexing, and if everything checks out, we're gonna clean it up, deglaze the cylinders, and put the same pistons back with new rings and the same crank with new bearings. Wow, only the head needs a little bit of machining. That's great. All right, it's another day. It's actually a beautiful day outside. I just went for a drive with the TR4, and TR6 is here because we're gonna have to work from underneath. The next projects are under the car, fix the differential a little bit, reinforce the frame at the drift mounts, and install the good parts, axles and hubs. So that's gonna happen while we have the engine, which is kind of all over the shop now. But while we have the engine apart and we're waiting for machine shops and parts and stuff like that. But now with this information, I know what parts I need to order. I just need to clean up. That's how I left last night. But I'm gonna use the weather today, and I'm gonna take the oil sump and the front and the rear engine plates, the front cover, the pump, and all that. I'm gonna take all these parts outside. I'm gonna wire wheel them, and I'm gonna get them ready for paint, because it would be a shame if we don't use this weather to work a little bit outside at the end of the season, right? And in the beginning of the cold months. I keep saying that the cold months are here, but it's November 6th today. November 6th, and look, that's not the Canada I know. Anyway, this is gonna be the end of this video though, so stay tuned for the next one, in which we're gonna start working under the car. So thank you for watching, thanks for commenting, subscribing, sharing, and for supporting me, because that's really important for me. It helps me spend more time on the computer editing these videos. So thank you guys, I'll see you in the next one. Bye.